as we open this virtual space. Let's connect and be present with each other. Let's get to know each other with kindness and gentleness. Let's listen to each other with generosity in our hearts. Let's learn from each other with curiosity and wonder. We are a part of nature. We are a part of Earth. We are a part of life. May we use our time together to add to peace and truth and goodness in the world. May we honor the uniqueness and innate beauty of every member of this community. May we be united with each other. For the sake of ourselves and of all future generations.
For this part of our time together today. Oh, yes. Thank you to all of you who chose to stay. You're in for a treat. And so I'd like to just quickly have Rich wave and say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Rich. It's just always such an honor and a delight to be with you. So, as I said before we actually began, it's really lovely to be doing this work on Juneteenth and to be doing this work today. It's hard work. And so I'm so glad you're here. And I'm so glad that Rich was able to be here with us today. So welcome to an interview with Rich Shealey. And so let's just take a few deep breaths. Whenever we talk, well, really about anything, but in particular, some of the issues that many perceive as being difficult, like racism, it's really important that we open up our hearts and our minds so that we can really hear, so that we can really embrace and take in the information. So let's just start by taking a few deep, slow breaths. Together, the one heart, the one breath. and bringing our attention into that beautiful heart space. And with our breath, feel our heart, the seat of that beauty, that peace, that grace, that compassion, that calm, that kindness, all those, that beautiful energy that resides right there. That we feel that energy within our hearts and our hearts expanding. Opening our heart and opening our mind as we together come into this space. With my beloved Rich Shealey. Thank you. So Rich, I'm going to begin by introducing you, and then I have some questions for you. But as always, you know, the questions are intended to prompt your thinking and our conversation, but please don't be limited by those, because we really just want to hear what's on your heart, what you feel is important for us to know in this moment in time. So Rich Shealey is a powerful, strategic, independent thinker, researcher, synergist, author, speaker, empath, and intuitive servant. He synthesizes and effectively deploys these gifts and experiences by helping his clients close the gap from where they are presently to robustly entering their unique spiritual path and zone of greatness. Rich's research has shown that living a life with a continuing gap is toxic to your success and health in a variety of ways. Most importantly, the gap drains your being system of critical energy and contributes to stress, depression, mental and physical health issues, up to and including premature death. Rich has created a learning system that helps the client explore the roots of the gap, unique to them, and step by step helps the client discover strategies to both close the gap and robustly move forward with a renewed awareness of what and who they are, with many new insights, tactics, and plans. Beginning his life constrained by poverty, abandonment, betrayal, and other difficulties, Rich overcame every challenge to guide his family from the lowest quintile of American life to the highest before he was 40 years old. Twice a C-suite executive, clearly Rich knows how to close a gap. At 67, Rich retired from business and turned his attention to spiritual development, spiritual growth, and life transformation, devoting more than 15 consecutive years to daily research and study, seeking to discover and understand what it means to be an optimal human being and how to accomplish that goal. Along the way, it became clear that the most substantial and most profound hindrance to becoming an optimal human was the pernicious, unconscious identifications and attachments humanity has maintained with race, racism, white supremacy, and income inequality since the middle of the 17th century. Never daunted by an awesome challenge, Rich set his heart, mind, and being to the task of resolving the species level centuries old problem that has severely vexed, corrupted, and marginalized almost all of the humans on our planet. Heart Transformed, Ending Racism has been created to help all people of every ethnicity, language, geography, and creed to break free from their respective status quo, helping them advance from wherever they happen to be to the understanding of what it means to be an optimal human. Whether the gap is conscious or unconscious, we will be able to help. Humans are undefined and undefinable. Their greatness, advanced creativity, and unique higher powers are best sourced through helping them to discover and embrace their dormant, energy-mediated capabilities within awaiting their attention, focus, and commitment. That's about Heart Transformed, Ending Racism. So thank you, Rich, for the years of work you've done, and thank you for being here with us. Yes, the Optimal Human Global Community provides a safe zone and loving context for learning, embracing, and embodying the values of life disciplines of an optimal human. And I know Rich so well that I know that underneath all of his work is a clear desire to unify humanity and to eliminate the barrier of racism, not only so that we can become optimal humans ourselves, but that we can join and be in unity with others. So, Rich, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Tez. Thank you so much.
So glad you're here. So let's begin our interview. So I think we need to just learn a little bit more about you and your work. So just take some time with us and tell us about yourself and your work.
Well, I guess you would easily say that I am what you might call an odd duck. I have learned that as an intuitive empath, that makes me a member of a small group of humans out of the 8 billion on the planet. So less than 2% of that 8 billion are intuitive empaths. And what that means is that I have a very, very strong intuition that is capable of reaching into areas of knowing that other humans can't imagine exist. I know that's a strange statement.
But so true.
Yes. And because of that, I've been able to learn some things, and my intuition takes me places that I don't know I'm going. The way my intuition works is that something will be dropped into my conscious awareness out of nowhere. It'll just show up. And because I'm now 81 years old, I recognize this. It happened so many times over my life. I mean, this probably started and happened enough times in my 20s. So I've had 60 years to practice on refining my intuition. And the other side of that is the empathic ability, the ability to discern information from the energy of others. what information is their energy sharing? And I'm going to say more about that as we go on. But when you're able to collect information and data in the way that I am, then you can come up with something like Heart Transformed Ending Racism. Racism has been around more than 350 years, and no one's been able to make a small dent in what racism does to humanity. And we're just beginning to learn how pernicious and death-dealing racism is. Every moment that you continue to allow unconscious identifications with the false hypothesis of race, systemic racism, as long as you allow those things to fester at your unconscious levels and do nothing, you're contributing to your early death every day. And that has to do with your telomeres. For those of you who might not know what telomeres are the endpoints of your chromosomes. And telomeres are one of the ways that scientists calculate the length of your life. When you allow unconscious stress, unconscious anxiety, unconscious depression to go on within your being system, and you make no intervention, then you're causing your telomeres to shorten. And when telomeres shorten, life shortens proportionately. Now, the good thing is that your telomeres can be resurrected. So if you learn how to intervene and how to dismiss systemic racism and the falsehood of race, when you learn how to dismiss that from your energy, from your being system, from your thought processes, when you learn to do that, then your telomeres will begin to grow again and give you back years. But if you do nothing, they will continue to shorten. And that's what being a synergist is all about. A synergist is someone who is able to collect information and hold that information for as much as 10 years or 20 years. And when the next piece comes along that clarifies what the puzzle you're seeking to solve is all about, because you are a synergist, you will recognize where that piece fits. And that will allow you to move on to complete the whole puzzle. So that's a little bit about the strange person that I am. You want me to say more about my work?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Because I am one of those people who believe in reincarnation and metaphysics and all of that kind of strange stuff. My conviction is that I came to this iteration of life to do the work of doing everything I could, doing my part to end racism across the globe. When you look at the 8 billion people on the globe, I would say easily the number of people across the globe who are negatively impacted, their lives marginalized by racism, easily exceed 7 billion. We just crossed the threshold of 8 billion in November of 2022. The country of India now exceeds China in population. So India is now the most populous country on the planet. And you will recall that India was occupied by the British for what, 100 years or something like that. And so you've got a billion, more than a billion people. I think they have about 1.4 billion or something like that. Those people carry the traumas and scars of racism within their energy and their being systems. The Chinese were occupied by the Japanese. And on as you go around the globe, you will encounter people who have been marginalized by systemic racism. Now, what is the root of racism? And that is something that I have been following for all of the time that I have been researching racism. And that research is not complete. I have more work to do, even though I have gone through many iterations thinking this is the root. No, there's some breadcrumbs, there's some breadcrumbs leading away from the scene of the crime. I gotta follow those. So now, now I know that racism is rooted in the consciousness of separation. And so that's one of the main parts of my book was always to find the root of racism. Where does it lead back to? But once I got to the consciousness of separation, then I wanted to, the intuition just was pinching me and tugging at me and saying I needed to do more. And so somewhere in the research were several books that pointed me to the mythology of Anglo-Saxon superiority. And following those breadcrumbs, that took me back to the second half of the 5th century after Christ. And I've got to do more work and more detail on that. But basically, that is not only a consciousness of separation, but it is also a consciousness of the perception that people who are part of that Anglo-Saxon community are divinely authorized to dominate and control other human groups. So you can see why I would find that an interesting trail of breadcrumbs to figure out this thing of racism. Now, there are 4 quotes of magnificent human beings that guided me through all of the time that I was researching the book. And the first quote was from Albert Einstein. Einstein said, "Everything is energy." So that sets forth the playing field. Everything is energy. That means that you are energy, I am energy. The 8 billion fellow humans on the planet, everything is energy. So if it doesn't come back to energy, you're in the wrong place. He also said that you cannot solve a problem like racism with the same consciousness within which the problem was created. So that means that if you're going to solve the problem of racism, then you're going to have to find yourself a consciousness other than the consciousness of separation. And most of us are here operating with a consciousness of separation, primarily because we think we are living in a Newtonian physics, Sir Isaac Newton, when in fact, we're living in quantum physics, quantum biology. Niels Bohr and all of his buddies, we live in a quantum world. And I'm going to say more about that later. Now, a third quote comes from Buckminster Fuller. Some of you probably remember him. He was very famous, like Einstein. But Buckminster Fuller said that when you're confronted with a very challenging, daunting, complex, difficult problem like racism and you want to solve it, don't go straight at it. Figure out something completely new that renders the problem obsolete. So what could we come up with that was completely new that would render the 350 to 400 year problem of racism obsolete? I can answer that question, by the way. What we do is we come up with a new and accurate, profound way of being human. Because we are human, we have the ability to shift our consciousness into a higher gear, a higher vibration, a more expanded intelligence, a fusing of brain and mind intelligence with the limitlessness of intuition. When we can do those things, then we're on our way to becoming an optimized human being. So humanity has been trying to solve the problem of racism using 20% approximately of our resources. Now, if we fuse, combine the energy fields that surround our physicality, those energy fields that extend out 20 to sometimes 25 feet from our physicality in all directions. Now, if we combine those with our physicality, our brain and minds, now we have gone from 20% of resources to 100% of resources. And when we learn to live into that capacity, then we become limitless in what we can do. with that kind of power and capability, you don't have to be concerned about what's going to happen because of artificial intelligence. The most magnificent intelligence that is beyond anything that artificial intelligence will ever be able to think about is you. You are unlimited in your capability, your possibilities. You are far stronger than artificial intelligence will ever be. You have the capability of directly knowing all there is to know about the universe. What does artificial intelligence know about the universe? Look it up. It'll say 5%. You have the capacity to go far, far beyond that. You have the capacity of the physics of the universe. You are a system of systems. You just have not activated your most powerful technology. You are able to connect directly with the universe and what it is doing. Because as Chopra taught us, you are the universe. You are a microcosm of the universe. Everything that is in the universe is in you. You just have not activated very much of it because you have not known, you have not been taught, and nobody told you that this was you, that you had the capability of everything. And someone asked the question, why is this important? Well, you know why it's important, because you look at the world and what do you see? You see the challenges of climate change. You see the challenges of war. You see the challenges of human separation. In America, you see the challenges of politics that has gone completely out of its mind. All of these things are within your ability to correct. You have it within your ability to correct. You just need to apply yourself to these things in an authentic way. You need to have values different than the values you have now. My intuition is telling me that I should not forget to tell you this story. And this is not a nice story. And I hope no one gets offended. But this is a story of a circumstance that happened to me maybe 50 years ago as a young enterprising man of color, employed in my first substantial job. I had become the first person of color to complete the management training program at Continental Illinois National Bank on Chicago's LaSalle Street. And I was the first one who broke through that, what do they call it? The some kind of ceiling. So I was
Ceiling.
yeah, well, I shattered that glass. And after you know, I was making good money. I had started to have my clothes custom made and my shoes custom made and all of that kind of stuff. And one day, and the bank was the kind of bank with that Greek architecture with those floor to ceiling columns. And the bank sat between LaSalle Street on the west and Clark Street on the east. So this corridor with these columns ran that whole block from one side of the bank to the other. And I have on my custom-made suit and my custom-made shoes. And I know I am the baddest bear in the building. And I am walking down this corridor because my desk was located on this corridor, so I was there often. So I'm walking down this corridor and I pass an old man, a so-called white man. And as I passed him, I kind of heard him say under his breath, "Niggas, niggas, niggas, they're everywhere." Initially, I didn't hear him clearly. It took me 3 or 4 steps before I understood what he was saying. And I began to laugh. Even then, I was studying spirituality, and those kinds of claims from outside of me didn't disturb me. I didn't attach my emotions to what he was saying. I just laughed because it was such an ironic circumstance that here I had broken the glass ceiling, I had broken through, I was in the mainstream. My desk is sitting right outside the president of the bank's office. And this is what this man chooses to say to me as I strut my stuff down this corridor. But the other side of that story is that later on in my research, I came to a point where I forgave all so-called white people for all that they had done to me, all that they had done to people of color, and all that they will do until racism is ended. I forgave them for all of that. Why did I do that? In my research, I was studying neuroscientists, and I studied probably 8, 10 neuroscientists because I had come to a point where to learn more about racism, I needed to understand how a human being created a self, because I knew that so-called white people were very threatened by certain kinds of people of color. And so I wanted to understand, how did that come together? How did it become so important to them that a person of color who was a threat threatened their whole being, threatened everything about them? So I needed to understand scientifically how that came together. Out of that research, I kept coming across it. The neuroscientists kept saying the first reality of the fetus is the unconscious of the mother. Now, when I hit that from a famous neuroscientist, when I hit that the 3rd time, then I knew something was up. Because what that means is that so-called white people don't have to be taught racism. Racism comes as part of the process with them and us of being born, built in, inherent. And because of who I am, when that settled in, I jump up from the place where I'm researching, which probably was the dining room table, and I've got books and stacks of papers covering the dining room table. I jump up from this place where I'm researching, and I run over and say to my then wife, "You've got to get into your Rolodex. I want you to find 5 white families that we don't know, and we're going to take them to dinner, and we're going to become friends, and, we're going to carry this forward." Now, of course, since she wasn't on the same page with me, that never happened. but that was the impact on me, because the way I am, when I learn something new like that, that's that important, then I immediately want to activate it and put it in operation and see what comes out of that kind of work. So all of these things I have learned. Why is it so important that we end racism? A hit was that everybody on the planet almost is marginalized by racism, white income inequality. Understand what white income inequality means. It means that the elite across the globe, the 0.1%, take a certain amount of money, typically 15 to 35%, off the top of a nation's income. So that means if you have 325 million people like we do, and the 0.1% take 25% off the top, that means that everybody else has to fit their lives into the 75% that's left. That makes it harder. That makes it harder to give people raises. That makes it harder to keep people employed. So everybody's life has a little shrinkage because of white income inequality. Now, why do I keep saying so-called whites? I keep saying so-called whites because when the British landed on the shores of Jamestown in 1607, they were not called white. At that time, they were called British or Protestants or some other kind of term, but not white. White came into being in 1691 in a court case in Virginia, as usual. And it was a court case that was seeking, again, to create more division between Africans and Europeans. And in cases of this nature, there was always 2 different groups. On one side were the European men. On the other side were the 3 amigos: indigenous men, African men, European females. They made these laws, and there would always be that kind of division because they were completely focused on preventing sex between European women and African men and indigenous men. This is because what you don't hear from history a lot is from 1607 until 1640, everybody was doing everybody. Slaves came much later in the process. There's no certainty that when the boat came in 1619 and those 20 people came in, not all of those were slaves. And when I start slavery from 1640. And the reason I start slavery from 1640, Tez, we're running out of time. I'm having too much fun.
Please continue. Please continue. We'll make it up. It'll be fine. 1640.
1640 was the case of John Punch. John Punch was an African who was an indentured servant, 1640. And the conditions were extraordinarily severe for everybody. And everybody was dying early. I mean, just imagine everything was probably mud in the wintertime or frozen. And John Punch and two of his buddies who were European escaped their indentures. They were caught. All three of them were publicly whipped. The Europeans had one additional year of service added that they had to serve for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Additionally, they had 3 years added to their indenture contracts. Then they would be released to do whatever they wanted to do. John Punch, on the other hand, what his adjudication was to be a servant for life, slavery for life. So I began slavery from the trial of John Punch because that was the first time when there was a different adjudication according to race for exactly the same crime. For that reason, I date slavery from that case. It's a you can Google it, it's a famous case. So what I see, and part of my intuition is a certain kind of downloads. I keep getting a download with racism as humanity being held back behind this huge dam, like the dam in Colorado or something, but much bigger, big enough to hold back all of humanity, and all of humanity is being held back behind this dam, and the dam is racism and everything that is associated with it. And we are being prevented from becoming the new human, the optimized human, the 100% human, because we are allowing systemic racism and all that's related to it to keep us locked into our place. Because racism does not only impact people of color, it equally impacts what we call white people who are European derived. So we have got to get racism out of the way so we can more easily enter into the fullness of the energy beings that we are. We're energy beings having a biological, chemical life. And this experience seems to be about the biological and chemical life is a testing and improving experience for our soul. We need to, I was saying to a young lady recently that I am a professional lover. And I wasn't talking about male and female love. I was talking about being able to be love, to love without conditions, love without corruption, love without expectation that I was going to be loved back, but that I wanted to be the expression of the universe that is love, the kind of love that the Bible says that God has for us, that kind of love, because you are capable of that. I am capable of that. The difference is that I am actively involved in living into that capacity that all humans have, is to be love, to be forgiveness, to be compassion. Not that you would share it or give it, but that you would be it. Because in your energy, you have that capability. Science is catching up. Science is catching up. Science is proving that Darwin was a nice guy for his time, but what he gave us contains all kinds of limitations that we don't have. We don't have the limitations that describe Darwin's view of human life. We are quantum beings also. Within us, listen carefully. I will need a feather to knock you over after this. Within us is all there ever was, all there is right now, and all that there will ever be. We have that kind of capability. As Einstein taught us, you can't get rid of energy. You're energy, so you can't die. What happens? Your physicality goes away, but your energy goes on intact, containing, be careful here, containing what you did not perfect. Because what you did not perfect, you got to come back, you got to do it again.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so you can keep messing around with racism if you want to, because all you're gonna do is you're gonna have to come back and do it again. Plus, you're gonna pass it on to your children and your grandchildren and so on, down any number of additional iterations of epigenetics.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now let me conclude very quickly.
Can I ask you
Yes,
to
you
just,
can. Yes, you can.
of course I can. So I just thank you. And so I wonder if you would just expound a little bit on both, it's Juneteenth. So as I said, for me, that's really always been about liberation, the celebration of liberation, even though it wasn't a perfect process by any stretch of the imagination, and still isn't when it comes to racism. But talk a little bit about liberation and this last piece that you talked about in terms of what we need to learn. And if we don't, then of course we need to come back. And that is really about oneness, right?
Yes.
Which is what we are celebrating today in World Unity Week. So just connect some of the dots there from your perspective, Rich.
We are already one.
Yes.
We are already one because we are all of the same energy. We're made of exactly the same energy. And our oneness is expressed through our particular uniqueness. There's something called an energy signature. And you have a unique energy signature. The universe and God know that you are you because of your unique energy signature. That's how you're identified.
Mm-hmm.
What we have to do is to understand that we're one, and understand that to elevate myself, I need to do everything I can to elevate others, because there is a collective energy that we all share. And as the vibration of that energy increases, all boats are lifted. So as we lift others, we lift ourselves, because we are enriching the energy that we all share. And there is a regular turnover of this energy. We are refreshed in this energy on a regular basis. And that's a complicated area. Take too long to explain that to you, but that's a complicated area. And I need to tell you about the fourth quote. The fourth quote is Carl Gustav Jung. And Jung said, if you do not make your conscious conscious, your unconscious conscious, it will control you and you will call it fate.
Yes.
The neuroscientists say that most humans are controlled by their unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Things that you value that you don't know that you value. Now, I'm not being political. I'm not a political person. I have really no interest in who's president of the United States. But the reason all of these people are supporting DJT is because of what he symbolically represents. The unconscious identification and attachments to racism within probably 8 out of 10 Americans, all ethnicities, all creeds, all colors. The unconscious attachment they have to systemic racism resonates with and attaches to what he symbolizes. Not him, not his behavior, but what he reminds your being system of, because of the strange separated consciousness that he has. He embodies systemic racism. So anybody who's unconsciously attached to that will identify with him and not know that's why.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Energy is energy.
Energy is energy. Energy is energy.
Thank you so much for that. And I love how you, and of course, I love everything about you, and I love you. Rich, you know that, so that's not news. But I do love how you blend the sacred with the knowledge you have of history and evolution, with being an intuit and an empath. It's pretty, just a really beautiful merging and unique. And so I always so appreciate that. And what I want to lift up, and then I'm going to ask you just maybe one more question. And we have a little wiggle room. Our wonderful Kukwa African dance instructor is coming on at 3:15. So we have a little flexibility.
Okay.
So what I love is how you remind us that we are creating our own destiny and that we need to bring intentionality to that, or we're going to be creating things that we really don't want to create. We don't want to live in those creations of our unconscious, and that we have a choice. And the choice is to do our own internal work, to live out of that love, to be that love. And it changes everything, and certainly makes eliminating those systemic, intergenerational, for most of us, issues. It makes it a lot easier then to challenge those, because we see them, because they are in opposition to being love. So just thank you for all of that. And we have unlimited capacity, as you said, to do that. So you wrote a book, Rich, and it's newly released. So tell us about that.
Well, I talked about those 4 quotes, and that tells you what the book is intended to cover. But the book is intended to help people choose themselves, help people choose to be an optimized human being rather than a status quo human being. A status quo human being is not going to live the life that they could live. A status quo human being will not be as healthy. They will not be as vibrant. They will not be as intelligent. They will not be as creative. They will not be as productive. If you want to explore your possibilities as a human being, then you've got to optimize yourself. You've got to activate the dormant resources within you. Everything that you have been taught, probably by your parents, your caregivers, by the society, by your teachers, substantially all of that is not helpful at the level of the real. The level of the real is why you chose to come here and live this life iteration and get out of it what you needed to advance to your next level.
Yes.
Now, if you follow the status quo, that's not gonna happen. You gotta redo. The whole idea of my book and my programs is to awaken you to the greatness within you, to boost your intelligence, to boost your creativity, boost your productivity, kick AI's butt. That's what it's about. That's what it's about, because people are afraid of that, but there's nothing to be afraid of. You are so far beyond that, but you've got to do what's necessary to turn it on.
Yes.
As Ted said, you need intentionality, but you also need to know the right things to do and have the discipline to optimize them.
Yes.
You gotta set aside the American diet. You gotta start eating right. You got to look at your life, and you got to ask yourself on a regular basis, are the values I'm following delivering to me the life that I would choose to have? Big deal.
Yes, yes.
You
So
got it. Go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead. I am now getting a little nervous on time, but what I do want to do, Rich, is to give people an opportunity to see how they can get involved and how they can get engaged with the work that you're doing. So I'm going to try, we'll see how successful I am to pull up this beautiful brochure of yours.
Okay, all right. Well, last thing I want to talk about is the importance of non-attachment.
Yes.
Remember the man in the corridor. To not be emotionally attached, difficult experience you have to move through. There's a chapter in my book on non-attachment, and you want to benefit from that because that's one of the keys to authentic spiritual development and authentic spiritual growth.
Exactly. Exactly. That what I call the shaman tool of detachment.
Yeah.
So so I believe that folks can see this, although the print is a little small. So I wonder, Rich, if you could put this information in the chat for us. But let me call out the phone number to contact, which is 833-734-7689. And the email to contact is joy, Joy, at hearttransformed.org. That's joy at hearttransformed.org. And you have a website on here too, if people want to check out more information. It is hearttransformed-org dot theoptimalhuman.org. So hopefully our audience got that. Those who can't see the chat, hopefully you got that.
Yeah.
You also have a Facebook page. So it's Heart Transformed, Ending Racism. And it's Rich Shealey, RICHSHEALEY. So I'm going to give you just a moment because Kukwa, who is our African dance workout instructor, so we're going to move our bodies after this, which will be wonderful. Welcome, Kukwa. And so I'm going to give you, Rich, just an opportunity to any closing things. I mean, there's so much that we could have covered and we didn't, but what's on your heart in the moment that you would like to close with?
Just know what a wonderful being that you are, that in the universe at the present time, there is no being we know of who is as great as you. No matter what your current condition is, there is greatness within you that is beyond the imagination of all of those who have an imagination, because no one can define you but you. You have the capability of putting your intentionality to work. And if you have the discipline to follow through, you have the capacity to complete what you have set yourself to. You are great, you are wonderful, and the world needs what you have to give.
So beautiful. A call to stand in our own greatness,
Yes.
our own power.
Yeah.
So thank you, Rich, for being here with us for who you are in the world. I'm always so grateful for our connection and our conversations. I continue to have my heart expanded through our relationship. And so just thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're very welcome anytime. Look forward. We got to talk soon.
I
Okay.
know we will, I promise.
All right. Okay. All right.
I love you, and you can hang out with us if you'd like, or you can go do your work, whatever works for you. And so, yes, yes, yes. And so in just 5 minutes, we are going to move into being with Kukwa, with African dance workout. We, on this Juneteenth, we are